the industry really confuses and paralyzes people based on all the things they should analyze. And I run into more people who are so afraid to make the right moves because they can't determine what the right moves are because of all the information coming at them.
Hello, this is Matt Helton with OneTrust Home Loans, your reverse mortgage experts, and you found the Serving Seniors podcast. Now, this is where we highlight those businesses and individuals that help seniors not just get by, not just survive, but thrive in retirement. Today, we have another one of those awesome individuals. We have Mr. Patrick Negado, and he is an author, he's a speaker, as well as a 28-year veteran of the financial services world. And he's wrote a book. The book's called Canoe and The Current. He's going to give you all the details, why he wrote the book, what the book's about, and how it plays into what seniors are dealing with in today's world. Patrick, how are you doing today?
Hi, Matt. Thank you for having me on your show. I'm glad to be on. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Now, before we started recording, you shared a little bit of where you're from, a little background. Thank you for sharing that with me. And I found that a lot of listeners, they love to read books and work with people that they know, they like, and trust. So maybe could you share a little background, where'd you grow up, where you're from, some of the jobs you've had in the past, and then how did you get into this crazy financial world and authorship?
Great. I was originally born in the Philippines, moved to the United States when I was 10 after my parents separated. We lived in San Francisco. It's funny because I kind of grew up in the streets of San Francisco, for lack of a better term, where I went to interesting schools.
Okay.
And when we moved here, my whole idea of what school was going to be like in the United States was basically predicated upon watching Grease and movies like Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
That wasn't your experience, huh?
Moving to the city was completely different.
Okay.
So we lived in San Francisco, raised by a single mom. Wow. And I think my mom realized if we stayed in San Francisco, I wasn't going to graduate high school. So we ended up moving to the suburbs where families actually cared more about the kids succeeding in school than not. Okay. So that's where we moved to a nice suburb in the peninsula in California. And then I barely graduated high school because I was not being raised by a single mom.
Hey man, D's get degrees, so you got out of there, man. Exactly. You pulled it off.
I did. And you know what? As the old saying goes, I think Bill Cosby, and sorry if people get offended about Bill Cosby nowadays, but before he was offensive, he said, GED works just fine as a high school diploma. It's what you do after that really matters. But
exactly. Yeah.
Now, granted, I still got a high school diploma, but I ended up graduating a little bit early because I was already on my own by the time I was 17.
Got it.
So how I got into the business, I was a lost adult, didn't really know what I wanted to do. I worked in high-end retail, sold men's shoes, and then I was going to go and get into real estate. And then I got this opportunity to work for a software company that worked with financial advisors. And really, that's how I got exposed to the financial industry. And I ended up utilizing some of those ideas and entering in 1997. So I've been in since then. I've done pretty much everything in the financial services industry you can do. I've been a branch manager. I've been a wholesaler, and I've been an investment advisor, and it kind of came back full circle after kind of veering off here and there. Came back into the financial advisor space full time and for good in 2017.
Okay.
So that's basically my journey, so to speak, is kind of being jack of all trades within the industry.
Okay, awesome. Well, if we can maybe dive into where the motivation came for the book, and then what it's about, and how is it designed to help people?
Great. So one of the things about being in my generation, I'm not sure how old you are, and you don't have to tell me, but certainly we were considered Generation X, and most of us were latchkey kids. So we grew up with our single moms telling us, here are the keys to the house, be home by a certain time, do whatever you need to do because I have to go to work. Right? Feed yourself and do this and do that. And so I was pretty much fiercely independent from a young age. And one of the reasons why I had to leave the house at 17 is that I just could not get along with my stepfather.
That's right.
And so being fiercely independent by nature, I always questioned everything I learned, even when it came to the financial industry. So from that standpoint as well, the book really bore out of the inspiration behind the book was really a little bit of frustration with the industry, because the industry really confuses and paralyzes people based on all the things they should analyze. I run into more people who are so afraid to make the right moves because they can't determine what the right moves are because of all the information coming at them.
Okay.
And so I decided to write the book to simplify retirement, because the mindset really has to change when you retire. And I think most people don't think about that. Most people learn how to save. If they're ready to retire, they've learned how to save, they've learned how to invest. But when you retire, the mind shift really has to change from accumulation to decumulation. What does that mean? Is how do we then use the money we've built and ensuring that lasts us for the rest of our lives, right? Because we're going to probably live another 30 and maybe, if you're lucky, another 40 years once you retire. And we need to make sure that money lasts, right? And I think the industry, historically, although it's getting better now, has not really taught people how to make that happen. Instead, they continue to teach people, or at least encourage people to continue to invest, chase returns, and hopes that your money lasts. So that's kind of what inspired the book, was from there. And then, of course, the metaphor, the canoe and the current. The book is called The Canoe and the Current. And really, I use that metaphor to help people visualize how they should really structure their retirement portfolio. And I'll put you into that if you have another question.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Yeah. And that's a great, and it ties into what we talk about, because when I first started working with seniors, I was dead set and sure that the number one concern for most seniors would be dying, right? They're all scared of dying. I'm sure, they're all, and then as I chat with people, I find out their two biggest fears are just like everyone, public speaking, right? No one likes that.
Yep.
But their biggest fear is not dying. It's actually running out of money before they die is what most people's biggest fear. So that just goes right along with what you're saying, but also shows that a lot of times if they do have money, instead of having the type of retirement they want, enjoying their retirement, spending on grandkids, if they're really worried about running out of money, what are they going to do? They're going to hoard every penny of it, even though they have more than enough to live off of. So I'm sure you have to coach some people on, hey, you do have some money here. Why don't you have some fun? Because they're not all of them are willing to do that.
Yeah. In fact, one of the first stories I write in the book was my client, James. He had more than enough, but one of his comments was, I thought this would feel better. It doesn't, because really what he lacked was confidence. As you said, he was more worried about running out of money. And I get that. I mean, early in my career, I learned early on is even wealthy people feel a fear running out of money. So that's when the Canoe and the Current concept came like this. Listen, there's really two ways you should plan your retirement, right? One is you need to make sure your essentials are covered. That's the canoe. You need to build a solid canoe. What will that consist of? Well, Social Security, right? If you're fortunate enough to still have a pension plan through your employer, then that's going to give you guaranteed income. But that has slowly gone away. And then third thing is properly structured income annuities that's going to give you a guaranteed paycheck. Right? If those three things can cover your monthly essentials and essentially what you need to pick to live on, whether it's paying mortgage, rent, or property taxes, insurances, whatever you need there, food, and some pleasure expenses, then as long as you have that coming in, month out, you know that your bills will be paid regardless of what happens. You can take the rest of your money and invest that in the stock market, or shall we say the current, right? And let the current lead you the way to better returns. And in some cases, you may have bad rapids so that you're worried about losing it. But because you have a solid canoe, you can ride out those bad rapids until it smooths out again. Then once it smooths out, you'll have some gains. We then harvest those gains and use that for leisure expenses, whether it's vacations, gifting to family if you want to gift to family, or whatever you like, however else you like to spend your money that's not part of your essentials. And then last but not least, if you have more than enough money to harvest from, you can then reinvest that in your canoe so you have increased guaranteed income in the future to basically keep up with the cost of living, right?
Awesome.
That's really the concept. And people, when I say the story, when I tell the story that way, it clicks in their head. But when I told them the story in financial jargon, it never did.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, like I said, that's what inspired it.
That is so cool. That's great. I mean, and I think the way you've spelled it out with the canoe, even if you haven't canoed, you've seen a show, seen a movie, seen it on TV, and it really spells out what you're doing. That's great. And I love that too, because it ties in with what we do, because I'm sure you have clients that have done what they're supposed to, saved a bunch of money, have quote unquote more than enough. And then you have a lot of other people, right, that was always planning on, well, I'm going to buy that long-term care policy next month. And, oh, I'm going to max out my 401k next month, right? And they did that for 30 to 40 years, never bought the policy, never maxed out their 401k, and they're a little short on what they need for retirement. And so that's what we do, is what I like to call people is your second chance. Your second chance at the long-term care you never bought, second chance 401k, because most people have to live you have to live indoors if at all possible, right? So most people bought a house.
Yep.
And they always say at a closing on a traditional mortgage, no pay, no stay, right? So meaning that they bought a house, they made the payments, not because they wanted to, but they had to. So they made all the payments, they bought a house, and the market took off the last, 20 or 30 years. So they probably have a lot of equity in their home. So that's where we come in, is what with the equity, we help seniors use a small percentage of that to fill in those gaps, those holes you have in the plan, because they may have a spending need, and then they may have what they can spend, and there may be a delta there between the two, and we can fill that with home equity. So it really ties into what you're talking about.
Yeah, and
I guess you could say we could be sorry to cut you off. We could be the life preserver in the canoe if the canoe has some holes, I guess you could say.
I was going to say, I did mention part of that as a strategy. If you're short, you can always use that kind of your home to make up the difference, right?
Yep.
And that's always a possibility. But the main thing that I always encourage pre-retirees is you have to have a strategy. You cannot wing it, right?
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised how many people avoid that conversation. Part of I don't, you might have this issue too, but part of the frustrating part about our business is sometimes you say, we need to be strategic and put certain plans together for you. But it's getting them to take action is generally the hardest part, because it's asking them to think a different way, right? Number one. And number two, it's asking them to change behavior. And sometimes people are just uncomfortable with change.
Right.
And so that's the biggest challenge. And again, that's why I wrote the book, is to help them kind of think through it. By the way, I didn't mention this in the book, but in addition to that, what I help people through is I help them create a retirement vision statement. Most people have no idea what their retirement is going to look like, nor they have any thought about it. Their main thing, of course, is, well, we're going to travel a lot, right? And then, or we're going to spend a lot of time with the grandkids. Okay, but let's articulate that. And then in addition to that, let's articulate that together with our spouse so that we know exactly what our plans are, right? Otherwise, winging it is not a good plan, because the one thing you don't have, the luxury you don't have at retirement that you do have while you're still working, is the ability to recover from loss. You no longer have that paycheck from an employer, or to have that business. You no longer have that additional income. You now have to rely on assets you've built to ensure that lasts you forever. Wow. Or at least until the day you die. And then what we do from there after that is also your decision. But the point is have to have a strategy, or at least a vision, for how your retirement's going to look, to ensure that we plan your monies accordingly.
Sure.
The canoe, let's make sure that you have your guarantees taken care of, your essentials, and then let's time segment your current strategy, your investment strategy, to ensure that your short-term is covered, midterm and long-term.
Wow. That's great. I love that analogy. Yeah. It seems like, unfortunately too, a lot of people's plans are based off of perfect outcomes. Their plan is based off a super high percentage of return, or it's based off of this or based off of that. And unfortunately, we know that perfect doesn't happen very often at all, let alone good, right? So if they have a couple down years in the market or challenges, then their plan falls apart. So it sounds like you also plan for those hiccups as well.
Yes, the only guarantees in life are death and taxes, and the only thing that's going to be perfect is that things will be imperfect, as you said.
Yeah.
And so our job is to really, well, my job is to help people see what's around the corner.
Yeah.
You said so earlier, long-term care expenses, whether we like it or not, some of us have to come to the realization that we might need some extended health care once we retire. And extended health care is not covered by Medicare, right? So either your plans are your spouse is going to take care of you, your children, or hopefully you have enough resources to hire somebody to take care of you if you need it.
Right.
And when I'm saying take care of you, I'm not talking about helping you put your clothes on or just helping you get comfortable. These are the most uncomfortable things that you don't want your loved ones to do for you. And use your imagination, whatever that might be. So those are the things you have to kind of plan for. I have a great example, by the way, that was completely unplanned for. I have a client now. They've done very well. In fact, they're doing too well, and the money is coming out of their pockets, and they don't know where it's coming from. That's how well they're doing. They're now in their 80s. But the problem is, or shall we say the challenge for them is their daughter had a stroke several years ago. So they've had to take care of their daughter the last few years. So despite it being properly funded, well-funded, and well-prepared, they haven't been able to travel the last several years because they've had to take care of their daughter. And so now they have to find her somebody to take care of her professionally because they need to plan for that because, again, their life expectancy is now shorter than it would have been because they're in their meeting. So those are some of the, I guess, the obstacles around the corner or around the bend. If you're talking more of the Canoe and the Current, those are the potential obstacles around the bend that we see that you may not see yet, nor maybe that you haven't thought about.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And there's no way they can see those coming, right? But if they have a proper plan, I'm sure you help them plan a hiccup, you help them plan for challenges, and that can handle sick kids, it can handle a spouse dying, it can handle a bad market, right? You plan for challenges, not just a specific challenge, but I'm sure what you guys do can help them through all those different things and think ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Man, that's great. Well, that was an awesome summation of what you do and how the book ties in there. Before we jump off here, Pat, I guess if somebody wanted to check out the book or check out you, how is the best way for folks to reach out and get in touch with you?
Great. The book is called The Canoe and the Current.
Okay.
You can go to canoeandcurrent.com for more information. You can also purchase the book on Amazon under Canoe and the Current. And it's very reasonable. It's less than $10 for the paperback. You can also reach me through LinkedIn if you want to.
Okay.
Also have an email, info@Canoe and the Current. So that's the only difference is Canoe and the Current.
Okay.
Info@Canoe and the Current. If you want to email me, I respond to everybody as much as I can, as much as I can handle. But certainly Canoe and Current to get more information on the book. And feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. I welcome all comments and feedback is always great. As I said to you earlier, I'm planning to write another book, and it's always good to hear what people's feedbacks are, so I can also perhaps do better with the new book. So,
sure. That's awesome. Well, that's great. Well, I think everyone's concern, especially about finances and working with someone on finances, is are they giving me advice based on their pocketbook, meaning the advisor's pocket? Are they giving me advice based on my pocketbook? And I think the first step is to find someone that has the heart of a teacher, as you've probably heard the phrase before. And I don't think there's anything that would show that you'd have a heart of a teacher more than you sitting down, taking the time to write a book to educate people. So I think that says a lot about you and where your heart is in this business. So I commend you for doing that. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And like I said, I do my best to ensure that people have clarity before they act on any recommendations.
Man, that is so awesome. Well, I look forward to getting this out for you, and also look forward to having you on again when you have your next book and hearing all about that as well.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me. It's great to be on your show.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all you're doing. And thank you for watching the Serving Seniors podcast, where we highlight these awesome people like Patrick that help seniors not just get by, not just survive, but thrive in retirement. We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you again. Hey, this is Matt Helton with OneTrust Home Loans, home of retirement mortgage solutions. And we really do appreciate you checking out the Serving Seniors podcast today. Now, please go to the description down in the body of the podcast where you can subscribe to get future shows. Please click that notification button so you get notified when other shows drop. And also, if you can go to servingseniorspodcast.com, and we'd love to hear a comment about our show. We have a heart to serve seniors, and we have a heart to make sure seniors don't just survive retirement, don't just get by in retirement. We want to show seniors how to thrive in retirement. So if you know of anyone that's 55 and older that could use some extra cash flow, maybe the retirement's not going the way that they like, our retirement mortgage solutions are designed for folks, and depending on the state, they're either 55 or 62 and older, to make sure that they have that kind of retirement that they want, as long as they own a home and they're in a good equity position. There could be some solutions that they may not have thought about, or maybe they've thought of and they just didn't know how they work. That's what we do. So anyone in that age group that could use some mortgage advice, my team and I would love to be able to help them. Thanks again, and look forward to seeing you on the next show. Have a great day.